We've all heard the phrase Islamophobia. I want to offer a second phrase, Salamophobia. In Arabic, the radicals of a given word are used in a variety of words. So Islam means surrender, submission. Salam means peace. I want to suggest that we really aren't suffering a crisis of Islamophobia, of hatred of Muslims, but rather of Salamophobia, of fear of peace. Who is it that's afraid of peace, and why? It's those who profit from warfare and hatred and bigotry. We will probably find the Islamophobes and the Salamophobes in the same offices and at the same addresses. But we might begin to shape our response to the fear of peace as being the problem that we have to solve, and to do that in fellowship with our Jewish and Muslim and Hindu and Buddhist and Christian brothers and sisters. One of the first analyses to pop forward of the April 9th event was on a website by the New Muslim Peace Coalition. The web address is Standing Up Against Islamophobia, War and Terrorism. And they did a David Letterman type 10 unique things about the April 9th anti-war rallies. So I want to share with you something you've probably not heard, the reaction of the Muslim community as to why they constituted nearly half of the people marching, half of the speakers on the platform, and the central development. One, it was a younger crowd as compared to most anti-war rallies. There were enormous numbers of young people. Two, the crowd reflected the diversity of America, because there were Koreans and Japanese and Africans and Middle Easterners and Latin Americans and people from all across the United States. Three, Muslims joined this anti-war rally in large numbers, led by the Muslim Peace Coalition USA, reflecting a fresh assertiveness that they are no longer willing to stay silent. Four, the connection of war at home and war abroad was well established. Five, it was the largest anti-war march in the last 5 years in New York. Six, some of the protesters came dressed as Guantanamo Bay prisoners and stood in silence at Union Square. Seven, the rally was endorsed by 100+ imams from the New York area. Many of those imams were at the rally. 8, the rally was endorsed by 500 different organizations. 9, there were many young children walking, as well as elderly. And 10, there were signs for free Palestine, free Bradley Manning, free Dr. Afia Siddiqui, free Lynn Stewart, anti-nuclear signs carried by Japanese Americans, and banners against drone attacks on Pakistan. I hope in your walk for peace and justice tomorrow, someone's carrying a mock drone and reminding us that at Hancock Air Force Base tomorrow there will be a vigil and protest, and as well as at the Crutches in Nevada, the 2 sites where we're now launching drones attacks in Afghanistan and Iraq. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I hope this is maybe framed in a thoughtful way, some consideration of the state of the peace movement. I would be happy to answer questions. I don't know what your time frame allows, but if people need to leave, I'd also be happy to stay and answer questions. Thank you very much.
Anyway, the second one is, I know you need a new trouble spot in the world, and I heard on the BBC very early this morning about how Indonesia, there's such a Muslim against Christianity, you know, trying, apparently Good Friday coincides to try to blow it up. I wonder if that's something that's bubbling up, bubbles up apparently. certain holidays.
Well, in response to that latter one, of course, it's not just Christians and Muslims. I mean, we have Kashmir, Pakistan, we have Hindus and Muslims in conflict, and Christians sometimes caught in the crossfire there, all around the world. I think the part of the work there is like the suggestion that it's Islamophobia, not Islamophobia. We need to become still more clear as to what the issues are and how they're manipulated by demagogues and bigots to their political purposes and ends, their own outcomes. F4 and other organizations, of course, have been in Indonesia for a long time, in the Philippines and so on. There's a basis there. You know, the events in Cairo this spring weren't spontaneous. There were decades of preparation in Tunisia and Egypt. And so that experience of nonviolence or constrained violence that we saw was in a very small way perhaps a reflection of the 1,400 of us having been there a year before and engaged the police forces in a nonviolent way. We demonstrated, we modeled that practice, that magazine and other things. This work is going on all across the world. That's part of the message here. If I can travel 10,000 miles over 60 days, I never have to go more than 250 miles to find a room of people like this room, interested and willing to sit down, think about what it is that they're concerned about in their own communities and addressing locally, but also to engage in conversations internationally as well. Paul Hawkins calls it blessed unrest. The world is full of billions of people that share our interests and values and are engaged. We have to believe that that's true. That's the place for hope and belief in the world, even when it's hopeless, even when it's beyond belief. We have evidence that change can happen miraculously if we keep at it. Now, the Iranians don't make it easy, and more importantly, the Americans don't make it easy. Someone, I had coffee this morning with Lee Thomas and Donald Vish, and I think it was Don who said that he just read a book about the 10 evils of the 20th century. And the author said that the biggest evil of the 20th century was the embargo, because you can kill millions of people and no one is accountable for it. It now costs a delegate $4,500 to go on a delegation to Iran for 10 days. It's probably twice of what you had to pay on an early delegation. So, and the part of that's inflation in Iran as a result of the embargoes. So it's become very expensive. Harder to get folks we most like to get involved, which are young people who will come back and dedicate maybe a career to this work, but we want everybody to go. So if you went and loved it and want to see someone else go, you can help them, encourage them to go. Also, there's been a significant amount of concern following just the situation coming out of the elections in 2010. It's not any less safe, it's not any less hospitable, as Terry will tell you at the next third Thursday. I think he had a very positive experience meeting people and traveling, but there is a conflict. There is a tension right now between the Supreme Council, the Ayatollah, and Ahmadinejad, the political leader, and sometimes groups like ours get caught in the middle. So our Leila Zan, our Iran program director, who has family there and goes back periodically, the last time she visited last December, she was held for 2 days in detention by the Ayatollah's staff, saying, we like what you're doing in terms of bringing delegations, but we hear that you're also talking with the president about some other ideas for reconciliation, and we don't think that's the president's role. So Leila puts her life on the line. She takes the risk, and I think Terry and others who know that story, you have to weigh that in. Are you willing to go as well? So it's a more tense process. Jean?
We thank Mark for this wonderful presentation. We've been much better oriented toward the whole world. And we're thankful for every one of you that could come and carry on the message of peace.
Jane, before everyone breaks up, before everyone breaks up and leaves, we need some help. Now, right after this meeting adjourns,